Welcome to the Lincoln County Courthouse. It's going to be another great night of activities. This meeting of the Lincoln County Planning Commission will begin with a few remarks. The meeting is being streamed live, and when adjourned, it will be posted and available anytime at lincolncountysd.org. The order of events tonight will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce the agenda item and present a summary of the staff report. The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in further detail and answer any questions from the County Planning Commission. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application and then for persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak into the microphone. Please limit your comments to less than 5 minutes. Lastly, decisions on rezone applications will be scheduled for additional public hearing during upcoming Board of Commissioners meeting. Decisions on conditional use permit applications may be appealed to the County Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to the County Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. All right, first. Can I see that sheet over there? No, the other one. Perfect, it helps me. We'll do a roll call.
All right.
Please state your name. Commissioner Sweeter.
Commissioner Sweeter, here.
Commissioner Boots, here.
Commissioner Johnlins here.
Commissioner Schmidt.
All right, we have a quorum. All right, now everyone received a copy of the meeting minutes from previous meeting. Is there any changes? Seeing none, I'll ask a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So approved, Sweeter.
Second, Boots.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right. Next, we'll do the meeting agenda. One thing we're going to do is we're going to move old business. We have a tabled item. I think we'll move that in front of new business and get that off the table. So I'd like to make that change, move old business for our new business. Any other agenda items? All right.
Move your recommendation to move the table item to number 1. Ahead of new business.
All right, can we get a second?
Second instead.
All right, motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right, now we're to my favorite part. We'll ask for public input on any non-agenda items. So anything not on the agenda today, please come up and state your name and we can talk through it. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input. And then we will go to old business. Mr. Brown.
So the first item would be to remove the old business or item from the table. And there's a standing motion on that item. And it was motioned and seconded to approve the application with the conditions recommended in the staff report. So we didn't advertise for public hearing, but if the board has any questions, the applicant is here tonight to answer any. Otherwise, I've informed them that if the board doesn't have any questions, then there won't be any public comment on that item. And the motion would just be then voted on, so. Clear as mud? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. All right, so as Mr. Brown said, we do need a motion if we want to remove it from the table. Do you need a motion to move it?
I'll make the motion to untable Boots.
Second, Sweeter.
All right, a motion, a second. Any discussion on this one? All right, we'll take a roll call. Commissioner Sweeter.
Yes.
Commissioner Boots.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. All right, so that's been removed from the table. And now we have a motion and a second to approve. Just as a reminder, what we did last time, we tabled it because the applicant was not here and we had some questions for him. So that's the reason we tabled it. So with this quorum, we've already gone through all that, but if we have any questions for the applicant, we can ask them to come forward. And if we don't have
I
any
guess
questions, we can.
I just got one.
Okay. Can we have the applicant come?
It's fairly simple.
Every question counts. Hi,
Aye.
could you put your name for the record, please?
Angela Baumgars.
Thank you.
I guess since you weren't here, and my only question that I do have, and since we weren't able to ask you, are you good with these conditions that are listed, the 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion second. If there's no discussion, I'll do roll call. Commissioner Sweeter,
Yes.
Commissioner Boots,
Yes?
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Instead.
Yes.
Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. All right, that passes. Now we move on to new business. First item is a rezone. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Toby Brown, representing County Planning. This first item before you this evening is an application for a change of zone of approximately 104.17 acres. This will be a change of zone from the A1 Agricultural District to the I1 Light Industrial District. Subject property is approximately 3,000 feet to the south of the city of T. This is outside of the T's growth area, but it is within their subdivision authority. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. Comprehensive plan does identify this property as an urban expansion area. There is a nodal rural commercial industrial node, which would be directly opposite of that interchange on the east side of the interstate. Subject property is, like I mentioned, is currently zoned A1 agricultural. It is undeveloped, is primarily utilized for agricultural production. This area should be familiar to you. You've had a number of applications in this area. As I've referred to this previously, this is somewhat of a mixed-use area. There's some single-family development that was pre-density zoning, so it's A1 zoned. There was some additional lots that were developed, and those are zoned RR rural residential. And then there is a commercial, what I'll call a commercial development just to the east along the interchange. And that is fully developed except for the northern lot. There is access again off of Ponderosa, and then Terry Lane also does have access. So as mentioned, this parcel is currently undeveloped, utilized primarily for agricultural production. So we did have an application submitted to the office. We did have some discussions with the applicant. Applicant is proposing through the concept plan to rezone the southern part of the property to I-1 light industrial. As you're aware, in the county zoning regulations, I-1 light industrial does also allow commercial type uses in it, as long as those are conditional uses within the commercial district. So I don't fully envision this to be a full light industrial park with manufacturing in it. It would be more so commercial type uses. The applicant just wanted to make sure that there was availability to do some type of light manufacturing, which under our ordinance does require that to be fully within a structure. It can't be anything outside. So there is a subsequent application after this that'll be rezoning the buffer part to the transitional part to RR rural residential. That's the subsequent application. So we did have some discussions with the applicant. Did have some extensive discussions with staff from the City of T as well. The City of T, as is aware, this is outside of their growth area. The City of T is in the process of updating its comprehensive plan. And what I've been told is that they probably do envision encompassing this area within their new comprehensive plan. They don't have utilities to this property currently. There is no plans to offer utilities to this property. However, in discussions that I've had with staff, they've stated that in general, that they think some of this is premature development because it's not annexable and it's also doesn't have a plan for infrastructure development there. However, in the staff's analysis, we really took a look at, again, the predominant use of what this area is. since we're not guided by the City of T's current comprehensive plan as far as what they would envision to be in this property, we look to what's existing there now. Again, this is at a node. Typically, the stuff to the north of that interchange and across the interstate has all been developed as this type of a land use. And so we do feel that this is consistent with what a rural commercial node would be. Absent, and I don't want to say the current draft of our comprehensive plan that we're looking at, we're really looking at making this a nodal type area. But again, that's not what the current law of the land is for this particular property. But we do know that there is quite a bit of discussion with the neighbors and things like that as far as what they would like to see with this future development in this area. So staff does recommend approval of this application. We do feel that it is consistent with what's been going on essentially to the north and to the east on the property, as well as that this is at an interchange, which is typically identified as a rural commercial industrial area. Do understand T's concerns about it, but as far as the applicant will probably further address is that there has to be somewhat of a timeline established when T is going to get there with some of those infrastructures and developments. However, as I discussed with staff from the City of T, since this is within their subdivision authority, they will be highly involved in the development of this. So I know we're not here to talk about drainage and grading and those different types of things, but those will all be handled by the City of T, so they'll have full jurisdiction over those approvals. As well as we do have an informal joint jurisdictional relationship with the City of T. So any site plan that would be approved, and regardless if it requires a conditional use permit or not, we do require that the City of T does review that through their engineering. They also submit that through their planning commission, their board, and their city council. So it is a pretty extensive review process by the City of T. So with that, I'd be happy to answer your questions, but again, staff does recommend approval of this rezone for the 104.17 acres from A1 to I1.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Yeah, just
Mr. Booth?
with it being light industrial, you did say commercial could be in there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because obviously, when that interchange gets changed, it's gonna kind of be a booming area there, so I thought that's what you said, but I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Sweeter?
Mr. Brown, what is the access to those? What access will there be to those parcels, to that piece of property?
Yeah, so as the concept plan is showing, is they're going to have access to the township road to the west, and then they will also be utilizing Ponderosa. And so this will go through the City of T's subdivision approval process. So they will work with the township. I have discussed with the applicant, working with the township as well. But again, at this stage, this is a two-step process. First step would be the change of zone, and then if approved, then we go on to the design, the subdivision process, which again, we don't have any jurisdiction over. That'll be the City of T. So, and it's completely possible the township doesn't allow access to. So, yeah.
Commissioners, more questions?
Toby, so we're voting on to approve the 5 acres for rural residential and the 104, or just the 104?
Just 104 with this item. The
Okay.
next item will be that, yes.
Having said that, we're just putting the rezone, the actual completion, site plan, whatever goes in there belongs to the City of T.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so we're just the tip of the spear, so to speak.
Step one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because, for the record, Toby, we've had other issues on this particular property. And I think we've turned things down, because it is low and it has some real issues. So, I mean, I don't know if somebody has an idea that they can turn that into a light industrial or some kind of commercial development, that's not what we're here for. We're just looking at a rezoning from ag to, why did they choose light industrial as opposed to commercial or something like that?
So typically, commercial is generally just warehousing and those different types of things. But we do have a lot of individuals that do framing, some type of just small, what I'll call small manufacturing things. That's becoming pretty pretty commonplace in the county, cabinetry, those different types of things. So the applicant didn't want to limit themselves to just those things, and then they would have to rezone individual lots for that. They thought, let's just be upfront and say this is the ultimate use of what it is, but I would foresee most of this is going to be commercial type uses, whether it be warehousing, contractor shops, or that like, but.
Do you have any idea how TU is going to react to this? I mean, from your conversations with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that, they always state out, we don't have jurisdiction over the zoning
Yeah.
part of it, but, I think for them, as they're going through their comprehensive plan process right now, so they're just trying to look at everything, all pictures and things like that, which does make it unfortunate that we don't really have a good guide to this to say, okay, this is what the city of T would want it to be and those different types of things. But I think they clearly would see these types of uses. They would just rather see it be annexed and developed with city infrastructure.
Is there any thought that we're getting ahead of the game by rezoning this without T's really understanding what they want to do with that?
Well, I think from a land use perspective, again, I think T is okay with that. It's just the infrastructure, they would rather have it there so that they can annex it and provide services and so that it can be paid for by the development.
Okay.
All right, Commissioners, any other questions for staff?
Okay, the applicant is in attendance tonight.
Sorry. Thank you, Toby. All right, with that, I will ask the applicant to come forward and tell us a little bit more about their proposal.
Hello, Kelly Nielsen, Nielsen Construction. Yeah, we're just looking to get this developed. The current tentative plan is just an idea to see what we could make work. We've met with the city of T and staff about a month ago. We actually met with them again this morning because from a month ago till now, things changed a little bit as far as the stuff that Toby just went through. In a perfect world, they wish it was annexed. They're kind of dreaming of traveling that path in a nice way, in a positive way, but I don't know that that's going to happen for 5 to 10 years, and I don't know if that makes sense waiting with this piece of property. We did meet with the township as well. As long as we work with them, I told them we're just zoning, so there's some steps to get from point A to B, but they seem to be approving. I guess they didn't have any oppositions to it at that point. Met with all the homeowners to the north, trying to appease, them and trying to make something that would be a win for both them and us. And that's kind of why we set up the request the way we did. And, yeah, open for questions.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Commissioners, questions for the applicant?
So Kelly, that rural residential where you would put those houses, that's kind of a buffer zone from the area?
Yeah, and with the tenants that already lived there, from what I just got to meet them in one meeting one night, when they purchased their lots at one point or another, they were implied it was gonna be residential to the south of them, so we're just trying to appease that to make it be a buffer of types, yes.
So the street would run right to the back of their lots and, right? Or would they?
There's already a road there currently, and I don't know, it's almost like it's unowned, I think is what's going on with it. It's kind of a mess. But we would try to settle the road issue with them. So that's actually the front of their lot, if you want to look at how their driveway goes in, comes off that gravel road, Terry.
Okay.
All right, Commissioners, additional questions?
Well, we just got this email from one of the property owner and I was reading through it, they were just concerned with, the additional runoff, and that's notorious for that part of Lincoln County is the drainage, and they asked in here about retention ponds. Do you have any plans for any of those on site?
It'll be required, like Toby mentioned, county staff as well as city of T staff. They'll end up being, we're estimating somewhere around probably an 8-acre detention out of that 104 acres. 8 of it will probably just be a real low flat area for water to build up in, because it won't be able to leave and go across the interstate any greater rate than it currently does, so.
I just wanted to address that, 'cause that was one of the concerns, so I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's definitely low like Jim brought up, and it's gonna be a little bit challenging, but
Yeah.
we'll work through it.
All right.
I have no more.
Looks like everyone's okay.
Thank you.
Kelly. All right, now I'll ask anybody in favor of the application, please come forward. All right, seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application come forward.
Kevin Wheeler, 47022 Terry Lane. I guess, do we have the projector going at all, Toby, yet? Will that work, or? I just wanted to pull up the elevations, because I know it's a big deal, and we're not here to discuss that, and I understand the, where are we at? Does it not go high enough, Toby? Somewhere right there, place document below, focus. As we said, I think we're just being a little bit premature with this. I know the highway department's been working with another person on the lot to the north, and they're having issues getting access to that field because it's too close to the interchange that's gonna be happening. They're still not 100% sure what that is, so I don't know how we can not allow traffic to the north, but then we could increase it on Ponderosa. You know, I'm showing the elevations here, and I thought it was originally when those commercial lots were developed there, the floodplain was showing, and you have to be above the 2-foot elevation, so that doesn't leave much buildable area out there. So I'm not sure how we're able to add roads in all the lots that the applicant's showing, because I don't know where the floodplain went, but I know that was an issue for Williston Lund when the original lots were developed there. They had to move back some buildings because you couldn't cross Shriver's tributary there. And it was my understanding that you can't adjust the flow of those, so I don't know how you can build over them now, I guess. I also wanted to say, you know, we approved some residential stuff, you know. As Toby mentioned, this is shown as a mixed use. It's not technically commercial right now. So at some point in time, our forefathers saw this, as well as the current landowners have discussed that their father originally intended it to be a residential development. I understand our proximity to the interstate, and that's been our argument all along, but the biggest thing we have, obviously, is water, and I know that's not your guys' thing to work through, but, I mean, I have pictures of the puddles that are out there right now, and they're still there from the last month, so obviously, that's our biggest concern, you know, knock on wood, I haven't had it in my basement at this point, but I don't know where it's gonna go if we have to hold it and keep it back. You know, years past, we've had Terry Road Lane underwater, the middle of the cornfield underwater. This is 470th, which they're proposing access to their property underwater. There has been zero improvements on that since 2009. So I don't know how we can support future development until we address some of these issues. Like I said, I know the zoning board's been doing a very good job on a lot of these other developments where they're trying to push them through without proper utilities. I think we're just in too close a proximity to T right now to say it's not that big a deal. This is the same distance to City Hall as the development up north by Casey's and off of that interchange ramp where we had to put in storm sewers and everything else, and plan for utilities and future growth. So I think we need to slow down, be a little bit more proactive and look at this and try to make something work for everyone involved, I guess. So that's where I'm at with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else against the application?
Rocky Welker, 47028 Terry Lane. Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, I think we can't really talk about the first item on the agenda without addressing the second item on the agenda as well, or at least referencing it. And I saw that planning and zoning, their recommendation was going to be deny the 5 acres of the rural residential. So my biggest thing is, like, development's going to come. I understand that. I mean, obviously, as a homeowner, I would much prefer residential. But if it's going to end up being light industrial and commercial, I mean, we have to look at having a residential buffer zone. It's one thing to have your backyard bud up to like a commercial or light industrial, right? But it's a difference. So on Terry Lane, that's the front of everyone's homes facing that development. And I would be hard pressed to believe that any commissioners or anybody else would approve all of that light industrial or commercial, if that's where their front porch looked at. So if you are inclined to push it through, I would just really push you also to consider approving the rural residential rezone against the recommendation from planning and zoning. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Terry Mark, I'm at 47014 Terry Lane. And I guess I was going to wait until the next item came up, but then Rocky brought it up about the 5 acres. I'm very much in favor of that. I think that would be a good solution for a lot of problems, is to put those houses along that road. My only question is, Terry Lane, you bring those houses out onto Terry Lane, who's going to take care of it? As it is right now, we all take care of it. We buy the gravel, we hire Pete to maintain it, nobody wants to claim it. We need to find out who owns that. If we own that outright, then I guess it would be up to say, no, we're not going to empty those new houses onto Terry Lane. Or we will, but then this is what we're going to do. We're going to make up 20, 30 years ago, whatever, there was a maintenance, it was called Tower Estates Road Maintenance HOA, I believe is what it was called. I got the paperwork at the auditor's office here, a couple months ago. And they were supposed to meet once a year, elect a chairman, talk about, we need 5 loads of gravel, we need blading, this sort of thing, and then when we're gonna pay for it. I guess, so that's what I'm saying is I really would like to see those new houses across the road. And then what goes on south of that, it's not really that big of a deal, other than this drainage thing is also a big issue, but, so that's kind of where I'm at. If we can make sure we find out about this road. I would hate to add up all the tax money that all these people pay to Lincoln County, and we don't get that road bladed, we don't get it gravelled, we don't get nothing on that road. So we need to check that out first. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Reiners. My wife and I, Ginger, own that property just south of that new 9 Mile Park ready mix plant. My concern is the drainage issue. Our new neighbors at the 9 Mile Park concrete plant tell me they're equipped, they're designed to produce 300 cubic yards of concrete an hour. And if that plant's going, and they're located there because they see T and Harrisburg as growth potential unmatched anywhere. And they want to be a part of it. So if they're going to pour 300 cubic yards of concrete an hour, that's going to generate some runoff water. And that's got to go somewhere. And in this project, the most likely exit for that is that tributary that runs through our farm. And the only outlet to that tributary is a 124-inch culvert. So all of this development, all of those yards of concrete, all that runoff water has to be funneled through 124-inch culvert. That runoff is my concern. I want to know how it's going to be how that runoff water is going to be regulated, and how it's going to be throttled, down so that culvert can handle that capacity. I'm not opposed to this project. I think it's great to live in a community that grows and progresses like T and Harrisburg and Sioux Falls. And that's a wonderful thing, but there are some things that need to be addressed, and nothing starts a war quicker than water when you're in the country. And I just feel like I'd like your assurance that these things are gonna be addressed.
Dave, have you been on the concrete materials site?
Yes,
They have several retention ponds. I know
Yeah.
when we toured that, they
Yeah.
were talking about the amount of water that they could contain.
yeah.
Yeah,
But they're a one-owner, one-use facility. They can use that water. And they're the only establishment on that property. So it isn't like we're gonna have 15 different commercial development or businesses there that all can't agree on what to do with the water. They're one owner and one use. And so that's not a problem. They contain their water and they use that water. And we get virtually none of that.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you listening to my concerns and that, water is an issue and it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Daryl.
Ira Sherman. I live on Terry Lane, 47008 Terry Lane. We were the first house on Terry Lane. And actually, when we bought the property, we were promised that they were gonna do a 70-house development south to where this property is being sold, where this property is gonna be rezoned now. And for some reason, everybody's looking at all this commercial and light industrial. I guess at one time, the farmer said that they were gonna develop this as residential property. They were gonna do a housing development out there. That would be great. I mean, I would much rather have a housing development there, but we've also been almost here 20 years, and we've been down here multiple times about the drainage issues. And I've been out there, we've just been out there about 20 years. We had a house burned down and we rebuilt a brand new house out there. And the whole time we've been there, there's nothing been done about the drainage issue. I mean, and I drove out there today, right, where Haber Truck is. And when they built Haber Truck, they probably put a 3-foot berm around that so the water wouldn't go into their property. Well, that slowed the water runoff down. But right to the south of Haber Truck, there's two drainage going under the interstate. They're only about 20 inches in diameter. I mean, they look like, if you stand where the culverts are and look across this property, I bet you the property's probably 6 foot lower than the drainage going across the interstate. Now, they're gonna redo both overpasses, this one and the one to the south. And before you could do anything with the culverts going underneath the interstates, the state's gonna have to step in and do something. So before you develop this, maybe it'd be a good time to wait until the state would actually get the drainage underneath the interstate. Something done there, because here in the last couple of years, they've added a couple culverts to the west of Terry Lane, coming across the highway. Now this spring, we got 2.5 inches of rain in 3 days. And it damn near flooded this whole property out. And I mean, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 foot from Terry Lane, going over Terry Lane. So in the years past, I mean, we've gotten 5 inches of rain a couple days in a row, and I've kayaked around this end house. Kayaked down Terry Lane, and we've had water running over the road. So what I'm saying is we've had 2.5 inches in 3 days. And now we got so much water coming down from the north, because all the water comes this way. And they're showing all these development with all these roads and stuff. I mean, really, this is a big lake here. It's not, you know, unless you would raise that up 6 to 12 feet, that whole property, I don't know how you're gonna develop anything. So you know, we're kind of stuck in a hard place. I know when we built the new house, I was standing there looking out my picture window to the south, and it's nice, beautiful land, you know. Now I'm gonna get to look at some kind of a shed. I'm really happy about it. But I know development's gonna happen, but I'm not happy about it.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition of the application? Yes, please.
My name is Mary Hoon, and we live at 47012 Terry Lane. And I just have a question about the proposed 5 residential lots. As you look at them, if I point here, can you see it? No. Lot number 1, for example, has the easement for the overhead electrical power lines, so nothing could be built on that lot. So the first 47002, 08, and 12, we would not get any good buffer. Yeah, we wouldn't get any buffer. We wouldn't have any residential lots there unless something would change, and I highly doubt that they're going to move the power lines. So my question is, what would happen with that? And then I also have a question, or is there any intention to change that lot number 1? There's also wetlands as you enter Terry Lane that can't be built on at all, and has that been considered right as you turn into, from 470th Avenue into Terry? There's wetlands there. And then Terry Lane and Ponderosa do not actually meet. So there is, the end of that road does not meet together. So if T would take that over, what would happen to that? Would we have to do something with that as the people who live on Terry Lane? Or would that be taken care of by the city of T? So those are my questions. Tim, did I miss anything?
Thank you, Penny. We'll see if we get some answers for those.
I'm Dana Hahn, and I live at 214 West 4th Avenue in Lenox. Reason I'm here is that the property just south of the plot we're looking at is a family's farm. And of course, the cemetery is adjacent to that property too. I'm not here representing them, but like I say, our family owns the farmland. So I guess I'm gonna just kind of list some of the questions I have, and a lot of it is reiterating some things that have been brought up. I was confused, maybe, what T's role in control or direction of this is interesting. I thought that we were under their umbrella, to be honest. But, of course, as it's farmland, the drainage issue is a huge concern. You saw it up here, wait a minute, what happens to us? How will it continue down to the south and move through? So that's a huge issue. I know as some other issues have come up in the past, roads is a huge issue. Building it, that gravel road, I don't think is ready for a lot of traffic. And so what's going to be done? Is that going to be paved? And then who will maintain it? Neither LaValle nor Perry are rich townships to be able to be overseeing that. But it's not directly related to these projects in a certain sense, but the interstate, that overpass that's been mentioned, supposed to be replaced, and I was to a meeting well ahead of COVID about that. person that farms that land told me that Neiman House was moved in 1995 and reconstruction of the overpass was supposed to start in 1996. And, you know, we're a little past 1996. So where does that fit? I mean, partly if there's industrial there, and it does kind of make me nervous, well, what could there be? It seems a bit ambiguous. But traffic is a huge issue. It was a huge issue a couple years ago when there were some other issues that came up in the area. So I think that's part of what needs to be considered. I think that's my main comments at this point.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application?
Randall Haber, 47018 Terry Lane.
I'm not gonna go down the drainage thing again. Obviously, that needs a lot of work. Now, I think it's way premature to rezone this, for multiple reasons that have been heard already. I just have to agree with Rocky as one about the rural residential. If this did happen to go through, the rural residential along there would at least be something so we're not looking right at this commercial industrial park, basically, is what it's gonna be turned into. So I would be all for the rural residential. I think with the roads and the drainage and we're just so far ahead of what should be happening right now to rezone this as light industrial.
Thank you.
Okay, Randall.
Welcome.
Hi, Sandy Braun, 27395 470th Avenue, Lenox. We are down the road from that, and we've talked about this before with all the drainage and, of course, the traffic issues. Now you're putting 2 more roads onto 470th Street to the north of us now. That would bring way more traffic than the other 2 developments that we've talked about in the last year that have been denied to the south on Poppins Edition and Fetz Edition. A lot more trucks, whether it's pickups, semis, dump trucks, you name it. We're going to have that coming out on to 470th. You saw the pictures of the water. That's what we just went through again in the last few weeks. They have still done nothing to fix any of the issues on the road. And again, also the money for the township goes to La Valley, but it's Perry that does the grading of that road. They're in charge of that mile. So again, we have the issue of the 2 townships, which I don't know if either one is here tonight, or if Perry is even aware of any of this. But of course, that's what we had at the other end of the mile also. If we could see some way that road is going to get paved to handle the traffic, built up and paved, I guess it would have to be. I'm glad to see that it's Kelly looking at this. Of all the builders we could ask for, I know he'll take care of some of the issues, but in the same boat, I still think we're a little early on this situation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else in opposition of the application?
Rex Pummier, 27446 471st Avenue. I was not planning on speaking tonight, but we live downstream on Shriver's tributary. There's been a lot of talk about drainage
The problem is that, except for the one gentleman who lives just north of us, or who has a farm just north of us, all of this talk about drainage has been in this property or in T, which is upstream from it. Quite frankly, an 8-acre low spot in this 140 acres or however much it is not going to solve any drainage problems, especially downstream from it. Because all that's gonna do, especially when they build the rest of it up, it's just gonna speed up the water flow going across and downstream, and that's gonna flood us. The pictures that were shown earlier about water issues right at Terry Lane, we're facing the same thing a mile downstream from it. And when they build this up, 8 acres isn't gonna cut it. It's not gonna stop that water from all flowing into our area and into our basements. So I'm gonna say, this is supposed to be a lake, make it one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the floor to public input, and then I'll ask a motion from the commission so we can have some discussions, and then we'll try to address some of these questions that came forward too.
Can I just ask the question?
I'm sorry, we've closed the floor to input.
I'm not in opposition, I just had another question.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, thank you. All right, commissioners, I'll ask for a motion.
You know, I'm not saying that I'm in favor of this, but I will offer you a motion so we can get some discussion going on, because there's a lot of things we got to say here, so.
Yep.
I'll second it, Boots, for discussion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Before we start the discussion, I want to address a few things that came up again. And again, drainage, I completely understand. I have properties myself that are downstream affected by all this, so I completely understand. But it's also, we're looking at a rezone, not drainage. I know we're talking about 8-acre pond, but it really hasn't been designed yet. Maybe it's 12, maybe it's 15, we don't know. And that'll be up for the city of T to design all that, to watch for everybody. Again, we're just doing a rezone. As for the roads, as was mentioned earlier, it will go to the township, and they could maybe refuse access to these roads. We're not to that part yet. Terry Lane, that's a private road, it's not a county road. So it's on whoever's there. It'd probably be the HOA. I've formed tax districts before where taxes come out of everyone's house and they use that to take care of the road. Maybe something will come out of this, so that's something we can't address here either. And then again, about the buffer zone, that's the next item. We're not talking about that, we're talking about the industrial here. So I just want to put that out there to get started, and commissioners, let's have a discussion.
Mr. Sherman, you don't know that, but I've been around this commission for a long time. Perhaps people would say too long. They don't have to agree. Anyway, I voted no on your property originally because the water that comes down that ditch, has got no place to go and it goes down the road. So drainage has been an issue on this area forever. But to your credit, you have built a beautiful home. I just was by it there. In fact, you got a beautiful blue, if I'm not mistaken, because I did drive by and look at this. You got a complicated issue here, ladies and gentlemen, because the pressure that is in Lincoln County to grow isn't going to let up. I mean, it is continual. I think Toby will tell you the number of building permits that he gets requests for. We're blessed and cursed at the same time. We're blessed with the idea we have growth, because without growth, Lincoln County couldn't afford to do what they do. I know there was reference to the tax dollars that Lincoln County gets. Well, you bear in mind, everybody, that we get about 20 cents of that tax dollar. That's all we get. The rest of it goes for education and many other things, and that's nothing wrong with the education either. So when you look at this thing, I didn't know, and that's to my credit, but the rural residential, and I know we're premature, Rocky, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it only makes sense I'm telling you this, and Toby, don't shoot me because I haven't talked to you about this either, but it only makes sense that you have a buffer zone if you're going to have an industrial area here. Because what you're going to have is and Kelly does a tremendous job. He's a premier builder. He's done many projects, and I give him 5 stars for what he's done. So the idea of how this is going to work out, you guys, is something, if it is rezoned, take a look at it this way. At some point in time, this is going to be acquired. I mean, you can't, it's a primary thing. It's right off the interstate. You're going to have an interchange that, Ms. Hahn, you said they started in 96. Well, that's about government speed. It will get there someday, you know. But when they do that, it will have to be, take into account all of the drainage, because when they built the interstate originally, they didn't really have the sophisticated drainage they have. So if you look at it from the standpoint, if it is rezoned tonight, it is just rezoned. Now comes the tough part on how they're going to make this work. That resides with the city of T. You're going to have to bring a good point about the townships have to, recognize that. So I vacillate on this thing, but the only way that I can see that I could ever vote for this thing is to have rural residential street. And then someone asked the question about whose road was it? Well, I could make our auditor really happy because auditors love road districts. Having a former auditor sitting to my left over here. But you could certainly form a road district, and then you would have the ownership, and you would tax yourself to take care of that road, primarily as a street, because the county wouldn't be involved in that, and neither would the township. So that's where I'm sitting there, waiting for other commissioners on this thing to express their point of view.
Yeah, very good points. Other commissioners?
I'll go. I guess one question that I've got, and that was from the first slides that we saw, with those overlays with all that water, is there quite a bit of floodplain out there or no, or is that just standing water when it stands there? Does anybody know that answer?
Asking Mr. Brown.
Toby, would you know?
There's a lot of water. Damn thing floodplain.
So, yes, there will be portions of that will require a floodplain development permit, but that'll be in conjunction with an overall drainage plan that we don't have tonight, so.
And that'd be the only question that probably for you, Toby, and I guess I'm just in the thought process of working through this with the land, and obviously, it's very hard, this one and the next one, to me, they work hand in hand.
Mhm.
I mean, it would be nice to have a buffer zone there, but again, I sit there and look at the water and I look at the runoff over the streets, and then I'm picturing 4 houses built on that side of the road. What kind of issues are they gonna have? I look at, obviously, before my time, 1996, I wasn't living in T yet, about the interchange, so obviously it's a little bit behind, but we know that's the next interchange coming. The upside there is that obviously that, when they're redoing all of that, it's gonna have to help with the drainage, because it's gonna have to fix that, but I know Kelly does good work and he's developed a lot of things, but with this here and hearing what I've heard and getting some of the history of it, there's a lot of water issues here, so I'm I'm kind of struggling right now at the moment.
I would also have to reiterate that I'm really struggling. With the water issues, yes, there's a plan that's going to be put in place, but it's only going to take care of that particular area. I, for one, have always been an advocate of let's fix drainage. And not just the particular area we're talking about. Drainage involves a lot of people. And until we understand and take care of that drainage for everyone, I think that we need to start looking at some real drainage fixes for Lincoln County, because low areas are being developed. Yes, it takes care of that particular area, but it doesn't take care of everybody. It makes it bad for everybody. So I will really have a hard time supporting this.
No, I, pretty much everything I was thinking's already been said.
All right, so I too am going back and forth on this. I mean, I am a big proponent of city growing out, so bringing services with the city. But also this development fits our proposed comprehensive plan, exactly what we've been working for years on. Not doing spot zoning out in the country, in the middle of a field and off a gravel road. This is right off a major intersection, and I know it's a 2-lane road right now, but it will very soon be much more than that. As far as drainage, again, I only think this could help make it better instead of having no control over where the water goes this way, overflows that way. These would be proposed drainage plans with engineers and controlling all that.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Because I agree, this is two parts here. I mean, we got the, Toby, I don't mean to jump to the next one, but where I'm sitting, I can't vote for this thing unless you get buffer zone in there. So, if we're gonna approve a change in the zoning area, I mean, I'm hung up on that buffer zone, because if I lived there, I'd want to see houses across the street from me and not look at, down the road what that looks like. And is that going to be denied? Is that when that comes up, is that? Oh.
Yep, that's tonight.
So we have to vote on this one. Well, that puts a big kink in this thing, because I can't vote for this unless we get that other one approved. To me, that's where I'm sitting. And if that's been turned down and by staff, well, then that kind of turns this one down too. I mean, I'm empathetic to the idea of having some kind of differentiation between the two. So. And I don't know the rationale why it's been turned down.
I'll tell my thoughts on the next one already, just since we're on the subject. You do put houses there, but then that's somebody else's backyard too, butting up against residential. So that's just my only other thought is, we're having issues with basements and water and all that now. And then putting more houses there, I don't know if it helps solve anything with the area. But on the other hand, too, no one don't even know if there'll be houses there. I mean, it could be grass, and you still look at the industrial park.
And that's where my mind was going on that. Again, it becomes that neighbor's issue, looking at it, and how did those 4 lots, are they gonna sell, or again, just like you said, it could be just grassland and you're still looking at it, so. And those houses obviously, again, are gonna have the same drainage stuff that's going on, so I just think maybe this is just a little bit ahead of its time, and again, I know it fits, but this is kind of a tricky two-part deal, so.
All right, so
Rocky, do you have water in your basement?
Our sump pump runs.
Rocky, could you get a microphone, please?
Excuse me.
We have a really good sump pump that just kicks it out quite a bit. But no, I mean, my basement has stayed dry, but, not so much this year, but I don't know, maybe it was 2 years ago, we had that real wet year. And I think my sump pump ran for, I don't know, it was like 6 weeks straight. So, I don't know.
Yeah, Chris was at home.
Okay.
All right, commissioners,
Can I have one more question?
yeah, you sure can.
Kelly, you don't have to get up. Is this a caking your long-range plan, or is this way, you're thinking ahead all the time? So, I mean, what's your timeline on this before you'd really attack this? You have any idea?
Interest rates might be faster than what you think.
Oh,
You know what I mean? If I'm borrowing that kind of money at 8%, I don't have much time, the bank's gonna take it all.
okay.
So that's, there is one interested buyer looking at like an 8-acre parcel right now, so there's some of it I would develop really quick.
Okay.
Just regarding the water, I mean, a lot of the residents, I gotta believe it's gonna help for sure than people that are just to the north. Cause I'm gonna get that water through that land and into the center of that, where the center of the convention pond.
Yeah.
I would think all the moss should be benefiting for some.
We're gonna give it. Yeah.
But it can't go across the, it can't leave my property any greater rate than it does today.
Yep, it can't flow off any faster,
What if they put in a bigger culvert when they do the energy? That's gonna change
Yeah.
everything.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. So we keep talking, but this first item is rezone of the, whatever, 104 acres into light industrial.
You know, Mr. Chair, government always likes to table stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, if you did table it, what more would we want to know than what we've got now? Because the only issue is rezone and then move on.
Right.
So, okay.
No, I've thought the same, and I don't know if there's any more information out there. Well, one of the benefits of having this microphone is I get to vote last.
So Toby, if we rezone this, are we rezoning that strip that looks for rural residential?
No.
Or are we rezoning the whole, or just the blue?
No, and so the other thing is too, is tonight isn't final. Tonight is a recommendation of the Board of Commissioners, so this still does require an additional public hearing. And then at that public hearing, we'll know what the wishes of the planning commission is on that rural residential stretch, but that'll be the second item here, and I'll explain that further in detail. But again, tonight is just a recommendation, yes or no, to the Board of Commissioners for them to consider action on it.
Okay,
Yeah, that is true.
let's go.
One way or another, everyone can come to the Board of Commissioners meeting and we talk through it some more and
Yeah,
and then see how all that goes. All right,
call the question, Mr. Chair.
I'll still try and think through my own stuff. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the rezone from ag to light industrial, just the 104 acres, not the rural residential blue. That'll be or rural residential yellow. That'll be coming up next. So if we're all clear there, Commissioner Sweeter,
No.
Commissioner Boots,
No.
Commissioner Schmidt,
I should forward and say abstain because I'm gonna hear this same argument again.
you
I
can,
would-
it's government.
I would, that's where we get paid the big bucks. I would say yes.
I'll say yes also.
Well, that didn't work out.
You're supposed to. If it makes any difference to you, you know, I can say, ladies and gentlemen, it's not that I don't want to vote, but it's going to come in front of the commission. And at this point in time, I can go either way. So if you want to have a hung jury, I can change mine to abstain. And then and then it would go, it
No,
would be turned down. So whatever you'd want to do.
No, I'm going to say yes. It does fit our comprehensive plan, and it'll be developed at some point. So I'm voting yes, and then we can now go to approval to the commission.
Yep.
So that does pass with a 3-2 vote. And we're on to item number 2.
Okay, your second item for public hearing this evening, this is a request for a change of zone on 5 acres from the A1 agricultural district to the RR rural residential district. Subject property is approximately 3,000 feet to the south of the city of T city limits. Subject property is identified as an urban expansion area in the comprehensive plan. This is within the subdivision authority of the city of T, but is not within their identified growth areas on their comprehensive plan. So there is no timeline or land use identified by the city of T. Again, this is within an urban expansion area on the future land use map. So subject property is 5 acres. This currently is zoned A1 agricultural. This would be adjacent to Terry Lane. So Terry Lane was and the properties to the north that are white, that are developed with housing. This was a plat that was submitted and approved by the county prior to the 1 per quarter regulations. So they platted out the property, they platted out a road that was dedicated to the public, but no one's assumed ownership of it yet, which is typical of subdivision roads within the county. When the city gets there, they may or they may not accept jurisdiction of the roadway, but at this time, the homeowners are responsible for that. As Commissioner Smith stated, they can establish a road district, which would create a taxing entity to take care of that road, but at this time, it's just a homeowners association or a group of homeowners. 2 of the lots were rezoned to rural residential. The one in the middle, just north where it says Terry, that one was a split lot, so it was 1 lot. It was split into 2, and then was rezoned to allow construction of a single-family dwelling. Otherwise, it wasn't eligible for a single-family dwelling. Same thing with the one closest to Ponderosa. That was rezoned because that was not part of the original plat prior to density zoning. So the rural residential rezoning allowed it allowed a single-family dwelling to be built on that property. It was not eligible for it. So this property, or this area was never really developed as a single-family development. It was really developed as a pre-density zoning development. As you're aware, the comprehensive plan does not support rural residential rezones because in 1995, when the county adopted density zoning, established that the only allowable housing would be 1 per quarter. The rural residential rezone would be non-consistent with that application. So this application was submitted, and again, we went through the rest of these slides before. This application was submitted after the first application for the I-1 light industrial. The applicant did, kudos to the applicant. He did have a neighborhood meeting with the residents out there. I don't know if they were all there, but the majority of them were there. They all asked for this petition for the rural residential rezone. So the applicant submitted this application as a buffer. Staff does recognize and recommend there needs to be a buffer. Staff would rather see at the time of development that there be more of a berm or some trees or those different types of things that we typically do. We don't typically do a zone as a buffer in between land uses. The other concern that staff would have is that are these going to be attractive lots for resale? What if they never get developed? Do we ever accomplish a true buffer to what it needs to be to this development to the south? So staff did recommend denial of this applications, primarily because this is not consistent with the comprehensive plan to allow rural residential rezones after the density zoning regulations. Also, staff does agree that there does need to be a buffer, but would rather see more through the site development process, that the city of T work with the applicant to develop more of a berm, some trees and buffering, which is what we typically do for transitional type land uses like this. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff on this application. Otherwise, this is just a recommendation again tonight to the Board of Commissioners. Again, the applicant is in attendance tonight to talk about it as well as the neighbors, so.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, Commissioners, questions for staff?
Just one, since we've talked about lot one with the easement across it and obviously no house probably gonna go there. That berm would carry all the way through there, correct?
Yeah, because it doesn't, we just can't build construction, anything in there, yep.
Because that would kind of help ease the three houses that are over here, the furthest to the west, because again, they wouldn't get a buffer. And I'll save the rest of my thoughts, so if there are no more questions on that end.
And again, any development would have to be submitted in conformance with the easement that's there, so, yeah. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, I'll ask the applicant to please come forward and talk about their rezone application.
Yep, Kelly Nielsen, Nielsen Construction. As Toby mentioned, we did try to meet with the owners out there, and we actually came to them with three different concepts. Number two being the berm concept. We're not opposed to either one of them options. We're just trying to do what's best for the neighbors, and this was the route that the majority of them wanted us to try, so we're here with the vision of getting that done. I respect some of the challenges of, will there ever be a home built there? And they're great questions, but I suppose I could say I'll build a house there too, but I'm not ready to commit to that yet.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Kelly, if there were houses that were put there, is there any objection you would have to putting a berm where their property line would end? If you had a house there and behind their house, putting a berm with trees and stuff like that?
Not ready to commit to that yet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean.
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm trying to make the lots work in there right now is probably the number one issue, and if it was preferred to be the berm by the neighbors and the county, then we could travel that path as well. I could see some people like having a shop behind them and living there and thinking this is perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they could access their shop from the backside of the road, so.
All right, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application, please come forward.
Rocky Welker again, Terry Lane. I would just encourage everyone to go against the recommendation of the staff. You have a builder that was willing to meet with everyone, hear the concerns, make a concession, right, based on what he initially wanted to put together. And you have neighbors that obviously don't want the development to happen, but if it's going to happen, this is something that they can live with. You know, you're talking about people building new homes and just passing the problem off to them. Okay, that's a valid issue. But they're buying those lots and putting those homes up after they know the development's there. Right now, you have a road full of people that either built homes, bought homes, or rebuilt homes, expecting residential to go across the street. So if the builder's willing to do it and the residents are willing for it, I would just encourage you to go against the recommendation of the staff. Thanks.
Thank you, Rocky.
Kevin Wheeler, 47022 Terry Lane. As we mentioned, appreciate Kelly taking time and trying to meet with everybody out there. That's better than most people, like you said, would do and try to steamroll everyone. We had a kind of gentleman's agreement that potentially homeowners on Terry Lane could get first dibs even on the lots to kind of, like you said, secure your fate or destiny, because as we explained, it's a little easier to look out your back window at something as opposed to your front window. We'd literally see it anytime you come and go, so I I would agree with Rocky, and Mr. Nielsen on this, that we would be all for the rural residential to help ensure that we have some form of buffer. You know, I did a CAD drawing, I guess, how do you flip that dot cam? Be able to get a job down here pretty soon, Toby, look out. You know, we thought, you know, I guess I originally thought maybe more lots consistent, which what they are on the other side of Terry Lane. You know, they're 135 foot roughly or so, I think, on Kelly's plan, which I think is more of a buffer than like a 30-foot berm. So again, I would say we'd be all for some form of rural residential, and be it if it gets developed or not, at least you have more of that distance. I mean, that's why we bought houses out here, to have space, so.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in favor of the application?
Terry Mark on Terry Lane again. I spoke a little bit too premature there earlier on the other thing, but I also would really recommend or ask you to go against the staff's recommendation and to approve this 5-acre plan. I mean, I just think that's what needs to be done. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. All right, anybody else in favor of the application? Seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the floor to public input, and I will ask for a motion from the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve for discussion instead.
Boots second for discussion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to rezone these 5 acres to rural residential. Commissioner Sweeter, you want to go first?
I guess if drainage is a problem on the rest of the land, I can't believe that drainage won't be a problem for those houses as well. I mean, so, again, I'm going to be a stickler and say we need to fix drainage and then move forward.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think what you have, you know, I'll probably be in trouble because I'll be voting against our own ordinances, but as you look at this thing, when you're trying to develop, you got a neighborhood out there, you got a well-established neighborhood, you got fine people that have built their houses, they've lived there for 20 years. Their request is that they have to have this rezone down there, that they wanted to have houses in there across the street. Okay, very reasonable. You have a contractor that has talked with them, agreed with them, and said, yeah, we'll put this in, and if you want to build your house, these are lots, or if the owners want to buy the lots themselves to control what is right across the street from them. It just makes good sense to me that you have a good compromise here. You have a builder that's willing, you have homeowners that are willing. I'm not too stemmed up on the drainage that is right there. I mean, I've been over there and looked at that because we've turned down other developments that have been there. So I see this as a meaningful compromise where everybody can walk away with something. The only thing that gets bruised up a little bit is maybe our own comprehensive plan, and I'll hear from our planning and zoning director about my my wayward ways on this one. But anyway, we'll leave that at said. So I think it's a good idea.
All right, any other commissioners? Yeah, Mr. Boots.
Yeah, I think it's a good compromise. Again, I looked at the drainage on the other end. I would prefer a berm across there with trees and everything, but I understand that you know, you could have lots, the people that will buy those lots obviously know what's gonna be in their backyard. To me, the upside would be on the berm would be, it would take everything all the way across the front. But I do like the idea of the compromise that we're at since it's moving forward, so could go either way at this point.
And I just like the idea, what Kelly had mentioned is, you know, we see, you know, conditional use permits come up all the time about accessory buildings. Well, if a lot like this comes open, where somebody's able to buy that lot and access a light industrial right behind them, we're not doing a home occupation, we're not doing a conditional use permit, and, you know, so we're kind of, you know, eliminating that whole thing by basically offering them the opportunity to have that without having to go through all the conditional use permits and the home occupations and all that other stuff that they're required to. So, you know, there's a lot of people out there that look for this type of property that may be a good option for them to come out there and then be neighbors and have their shops out there.
All right, yeah, and anything gets developed, those lots, no matter which way it goes, is going to have to go through their perk tests, their septic tanks, will have to be engineered, and there'll be all that stuff. Me too, I think the berm's the best deal, but again, Kelly did the very good neighborly thing and spoke with everyone, and this is what everybody wanted, which I have to respect 100%. So yes, I'll probably, I didn't think I was going to, but I'm going to probably vote yes for this. All right, is there any more talking? Or we start some voting? Commissioner Sweeter?
So we're, just to be clear, we're approving that those residential lots are going to be there, correct? We're not,
Correct, we are approving a rural residential zoning.
no.
Commissioner Booth?
No.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted?
Yes.
Commissioner Jungling's a yes. So that approves 3-2. All right, item number 3, Mr. Brown.
None of these are crazy.
What's that?
Okay, this next item before you this evening is an application for a conditional use permit to operate a stable on the property. Subject property is approximately 13,000 feet south of the city of Harrisburg. This is within the city of Harrisburg subdivision authority. The subject property is zoned A1 agricultural, as is all surrounding properties or parcels to this subject property. Subject property is developed with a single-family dwelling, and it does have agricultural structure on the property that will be utilized for the stable. So there's proposed no additional construction with this application. You can see that in the picture looking to the north. This is a site plan that was submitted with the application. So the applicant did submit an application for a stable on the property. This is a conditional use permit allowable in the A1 agricultural district. So staff did request a narrative with the application. The applicant did identify that they intend to board approximately 4 horses that would also be boarded in the structure, but then would also be allowed the riding arenas, which are outside and constructed currently. Hours of operation be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week for those boarding clients. There would be a time when there'd be non-boarding clients would be allowed to do a case-by-case, utilize the riding arena on the property. Employees would just be the owners of the property. There'd be no additional employees on the property. And then there would be adequate parking as was identified on the site plan. So staff did review this application. did identify that this application would be consistent with what the standards are for a stable in the zoning regulations. Staff did identify that since it was in compliance with those requirements, staff is recommending approval of this application with the 5 conditions that were listed in the staff report. Staff did post the property. The applicant did notify adjacent properties by mail. As of this point tonight, staff has received no comments regarding this particular application. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, the applicant is in attendance this evening.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will ask the applicant to come forward and discuss her application.
Wow. Talk
Hi, I'm
soft.
Bianca Johnson. So this is mainly our personal facility, and then we've had a couple of friends and close acquaintances kind of inquire about boarding, which is what got us to thinking that maybe we should offer boarding as well. We have 3 kids, so as their interests increase, I don't know how long we will be offering boarding. If they fill up the stable with their own personal horses, we only have 6 stalls. And currently we have 2 big pastures that don't have great grass. So I don't see this as ever being like a really big operation. As far as like the arena rental time, that's also going to be probably limited in the future too, as my kids start to ride more and we start to use it more, because I want them to be safe. And so when it's our personal riding time, we won't be letting outside people in there. So it's not going to be a big facility. There's not going to be, I don't think, more than, maybe 3 outside riders a week is what I'm kind of foreseeing it as being. So, all right.
All right, thank you very
Yep.
much. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
How old is the little one?
He's 3 months. Maternity leave ends this week.
And he sleeps all night?
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
yep.
All right, with that, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application, please come forward. All right, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask a motion from the commission.
I'll make the motion to approve Boots.
Second instead.
All right, any discussion?
No, I think it fits out there. I mean, I've been out there, I've seen it. It's a nice facility, and it kind of sounds like it fits where it's at, so I'm gonna support.
Yep, I agree. If my wife was watching this and I said no, I'd be in trouble. We have horses and all that too, and she wants more. All right, sorry, let's just carry on, never mind. All right, Commissioner Sweeter,
Yes.
Commissioner Boots,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jungley is also a yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, this next application is a conditional use permit for a contractor shop and storage yard. Subject property is approximately 6,600 feet west of the city of Worthing. This property is within the city of Worthing's subdivision authority, but there is no proposal to subdivide this particular property. Subject property is zoned commercial, as is properties adjacent to the east and to the north, which would be across South Dakota 44. Subject property is adjoining Ag to the west and to the south. Subject property, the one to the south is also owned by the current property owner. That will not be purchased, but there is no proposal to develop that property. Subject property is developed right now with a building on the property, which the applicants are intending to utilize, and then utilize as well as outdoor storage for a contractor shop. Here's some shots. So the applicants did submit a concept plan with the application, again, utilizing the existing structure for the contractor shop, and then screening or enclosing a portion to the west of the property. So staff did review this application, did have some discussions with the applicant, did identify that the proposal for the enclosed storage and the screening of it would be above and beyond what is typically required for a contractor shop and storage yard. So we were pleased that they are proposing to really make sure that is the security one, but then also kind of visually screened with the buffering. Staff again did review this application, did have some discussions with the applicant. Did identify again that this does meet the minimum standards for a contractor shop and storage yard. Again, they go above and beyond with the screening and of the outdoor storage. So staff does recommend approval of this application with the 5 conditions that was listed in the staff report. Again, staff did post the property for the public hearing. The applicant did send notification of the public hearing to adjacent properties. As of this time tonight, we have not received any comments regarding this application. This particular property has been operated for commercial for a number of years. It previously, I think it's an aviary, I'm gonna get that totally wrong, but I think it's an aviary type facility now, raised birds, sold birds out of that site. So it's kind of a unique thing for the county and for the property. But this property has been for sale. And we've had a number of calls related to this property that this would seem to be a good fit for what the applicant's proposing to do, particularly in this area, in particular with that property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Well, Toby, where is this in proximity to the one that we approved a few months ago in Worthing?
Oh, it's right to the.
Because I was trying to pull it up on that, and I can't remember what the,
It's to the
Was there that
north
co-
of it. It's just to the north and
West.
west a little bit.
Yeah.
okay, so it is in the same general area as,
that plastic composite one?
no, the one that New Age was gonna put up. That's the contractor shops,
Yeah.
in Worthing. I know we did one down there a few months ago.
Yeah.
I was just kind of wondering if this was in the same area as that, so it was,
To the east of this property would be Southtown Automotive,
Okay.
and then directly to the north would be CHS, so a large, elevator, seed sales. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, I'll ask the applicant to come forward.
Matt Kissel with 605 Companies.
All right, what can you tell me about your application? What, conditional use, what you would like to do out there?
Well, first, make it not smell like a chicken coop, and then we run an excavation business and a construction company, so we'd be parking trucks and heavy equipment outside. With the site plan, we'd more than likely tear down the trees that are there, because most of them are dead, and replant new trees, and then put a fence up and secure the yard. So grade that so it has decent drainage and put some gravel in there. So, I mean,
Are you planning on access off the highway? And
Yes.
would that be only one, not the township gravel? Okay. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
thanks.
All right, I will ask anybody in favor of the application, please come forward. I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application, please come forward.
Hi, my name's Tana Grease, and I just live to the property to the northwest of where they're proposing this. I don't have opposition, I don't have, I just have questions. Can I ask these questions now?
Yeah, you can ask us.
Okay. What I wanted to know is, how much traffic this is going to generate on the highway past our house?
Okay, if you can address us, and then we'll ask them as a follow-up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yep, no, that's fine.
And then, the other thing is this a temporary thing, or is this a long-term project, or it will always be there?
Okay.
And we've lived there for a long time, so we don't really have any problems with commercial businesses. It's just that we have a problem, an issue with the traffic going by our house. Because there's a lot of semi trucks that come by and Jake brake constantly. And my husband works nights and I work during the day, so someone is always sleeping.
Sure.
So that's the only thing we have questions and concerns about. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get those for you. Thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition?
Michelle Bittner, 46967 South Dakota Highway 44. I live west of where they want to do this. I really don't have a huge opposition for it either. Here for questions in support of the Greases. So I've been here before and talked about kind of the same things, just for past development issues in our area. Growth is inevitable, and we know this, and this building stands, the property stands, so what they add to it, I don't know. But one of my concerns about this and things in the past were traffic. And I know this is kind of a state issue there, but right when you come off the interstate and you're going west, the speed limit becomes 65 right before CHS. And there's 5 residential homes that live west of there, and it's always a concern when you have to slow down. People want to speed up right in that area, and so it's just kind of a traffic concern with the speed limit. And just kind of, we want our area to look nice. That's why we moved out there, like everybody else is concerned. So that's kind of all I'm here for.
All right, thank you very much. We'll get those questions for you. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input. And while we ask the owners to come up, we ask some of those questions. So for the speed limit issue, I think we should talk to a friendly county commissioner and see whatever happened with that one, but that was not here. How much traffic do you expect coming inside out and of your facility?
We run 8 semis. We have 25 guys, but it's not, we're not really a destination business. I mean, guys come in the morning, they leave. Some of them will come back to the shop at night. Most of them don't. So you're gonna have, 20, 25 guys coming in the morning. Probably half that number coming back in the afternoon, leaving. And then you'll have, 8 trucks that leave in the morning and come back at night. I don't see a lot of our traffic going west. Most of our work's in Sioux Falls, that kind of stuff. So that's the interstate location, being a state highway. We'll definitely be less traffic than what CHS is, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we have, 30 guys that all have families and kids like that too. So we try to be conscious of where we're driving. And, we have another facility, in Crooks, and to get to that, you gotta drive all the way through town there. And that's, speed limit in Crooks is 25 miles an hour. So same thing, we don't have any problems with that. Try to make sure our guys pay attention to what they're doing and they're not quote-unquote assholes to our neighbors, so.
Okay. Commissioners, while he's up
I
there.
was just gonna say, you're coming and going, it's just like a business.
Yep.
Guys come, crawl in the truck, leave, go do their work, come back at night, park,
Yeah.
go home.
Yeah, if a truck's got a repair or, needs something, they might come back,
Yeah.
the middle of the day, but it's not, we don't really have customers coming to get stuff from us, so.
So I did have a question after you sat down, and I thought about it a little more. With you being an excavation company, do you have any anticipations to store any, materials there, whether it's, if you excavated it out and you bring some side dumps of sand or rock or gravel or black dirt or?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
Okay.
That's kind of the point of putting
Okay.
trees and stuff like that around it. We plan to rehab the building. The building needs
Okay.
quite a bit of work.
And then, then another concern that's been brought up in the past is, with concrete, and if you have concrete there and you crush it on site, it causes dust and people don't want that. Is that anything that you anticipate doing there, if you would bring?
I mean, we would, the parking lot would be built out of some type of recycled material.
But I mean, as far as like, if you would excavate, you'd pull out somebody's driveway or a parking lot that's concrete, bring it out there, and if, you'd get a stockpile of it and you'd hire somebody to come in and grind it. Would you do that on site, or would you haul that away and have it done somewhere else?
I mean, I guess I can't say we never would, and I can't say we
Okay.
currently would.
I just know that's been brought up in the past of similar type projects like this where people are concerned with the silica dust and, when you're grinding is if it blows onto their property and, just the issues that may cause. So I'm just, just asking the question to see if that's something that, that if it can be done off-site or you can do it somewhere else, it's just, people do have concerns about that. So just,
Yep.
something to be aware of.
I would think that would probably be taken care of in line 4 of the conditional use permit. The conditions of approval, there shall be no indication of offensive noise, odor, smoke, or dust or glare beyond the property line. So would that kind of fit underneath that, Toby? Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, so we got those questions answered. All right, we ready for a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve Boots.
Second instead?
Motion and second, additional conversation? Seeing none, I'll go for roll call. Commissioner Ensted,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Boots,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeter.
Yes.
Commissioner Jungle is also a yes. Good luck and try to be good neighbors. Thank you. All right, we're on to the next one. Is there a number 5? Oh, yeah, there is. Good. I didn't want to be done yet.
Okay, this next item before you is an application, is Lincoln County Tax Increment District Number 10. Tax Increment District Number 10 is to assist in funding the public infrastructure project known as 85th Street and Interstate 29 Interchange Project. Presented before you this evening is a resolution. That resolution is required by state statute that the Planning Commission essentially make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for the establishment of the boundaries of a TIF district, and then also a TIF plan, and I'll get into a little bit more detail with that. So a little bit of kind of background on this is that several years ago, there were plans developed to put in what I'll call an overpass on 85th Street. And so there was a lot of discussion locally amongst Sioux Falls, the city of T, and Lincoln County that maybe that wasn't big thinking or big picture thinking, that maybe it'd be more valuable to have an interchange at that location, primarily for, I'll say, first and foremost for economic development, but also for what I'll call east to west ingress egress on the interstate. If you're familiar, if you can caught in this problem yourself, is if you miss the gas exit on T, you got to go all the way to 41st Street. So there isn't really a quick way to get in and off. And so there is a need, especially in northern Lincoln County, to have that east-west access, but also to have ingress and egress onto the interstate. So there was, since that, probably a decade worth of planning that went into, is it feasible, is it possible, can it meet all the bureaucracy to put an interchange there? And so that, all those hoops were danced, I guess, and we got to this point now where we've got the green light to go ahead and put an interchange, but now comes the funding portion of it. So Lincoln County, their funding share of this project would be approximately $15 million. With that, with this tax increment district, let me get to this part here. So with the tax increment district, essentially the increment of the revenues of any improvements that are done in this dark shaded area Those revenues would be utilized to pay back a loan that Lincoln County would be taking out. Then those funds would directly be paying the loan for the Lincoln County share of that infrastructure. So this is a little bit different than what we've seen to the 9 TIFs before in Lincoln County to this point. Those TIFs were really granted back to the developer to kind of utilize those funds for improvements to their property that essentially would benefit the public. So when staff was looking at this, again, you got to take the understanding that there isn't anything there now. There's no way to get across there now. But what's the impact of having an interchange at that area? Obviously, there's going to be quite a bit of development associated with that because you're opening up land for development. All the items that we've had here before, traffic, transportation, those are all major issues. But with this interchange, you're going to open that up. So staff really looked at establishing a TIF boundary that would encompass essentially all of the properties that are currently undeveloped and then also that are underdeveloped. So there is some development in those areas, but staff would argue that those are undeveloped properties with additional access and transportation networks that they would more than likely have some improvements. And we've already seen that the last couple months. We've had some applications in the Morton Muller edition down there for redevelopment of some of those lots because of the anticipated impact of what that transportation corridor network is going to be. So in all told, those dark shaded areas, it's approximately 1,100 acres of land. And of that, there's approximately 117 parcels that are individually owned. Of those 117 parcels, they're currently assessed valuation was about $63 million. So staff would anticipate that potentially the first building that might get built here, would potentially be more valuable than what the entire 1,100 acres is currently assessed at. So there was an economic impact statement or study that was done by the DOT and the partners back several years ago. It identified that the impact of this would be significant for this area, not only in terms of job creation, but in terms of development potential. And so the identification of this many parcels was really to try to make this TIF paid off as quick as we can. So we're anticipating that the TIF plan would be approximately 7 years for total repayment. I'm not putting my name on that, but essentially that's what the hopes would be at that point in time. And with that we would be able to pay back the county's portion or the county's responsibility with that. So as we started this process, as quickly as development's moving, again, we haven't had construction yet, but some of this property has already been annexed into the city of Sioux Falls. And we didn't anticipate that when we started this. But because of that, we did have to request consent from the city of Sioux Falls, which Commissioner Schmidt and I attended the city council meeting last week, and they unanimously provided consent to it. They like that this is an intergovernmental project associated with it. And tonight, we can't be there, but the city of T is doing the same. They're consenting because they do have essentially a portion of city property that runs along this part here, and we're going through to that part there. So we did send notice of this public hearing tonight to all the taxing entities, City of Sioux Falls, City of T, the Harrisburg School District, the T School District. Haven't had really any negative comments received, but I do know that some of those officials are here this evening to provide comment. What I would say in general with TIFs is that these areas that are shaded, that no one's taxes are going to be impacted by this. Only if they propose development, those additional revenues will be taken by the county to pay back the loan that the county will be taking out. So again, what essentially TIF does is it freezes the value of the property at what they are now, and then any improvements beyond that will be used for this. It doesn't affect anyone's taxes. They'll still pay their taxes appropriately what they're responsible for. It's just the value or the revenue of that increase will go to the county. But the hopes is that we've anticipated this is going to be a significant development area. That we'll be able to pay back the TIF quicker than typically you would in a TIF, typically 15, 20 years. But again, we're anticipating that half of that time we can get this paid back. And then at that time, all of the revenues that are gone will be returned back or from that point forward, will go back to the taxing entities that are part of this now. So with that, we do have a resolution before you this evening that we had asked for your approval. And then with that, the next step would be to go to the Board of Commissioners for them to take your recommendation. As well as there's some other components. There's a TIF plan associated with this. The TIF plan, again, is that we anticipate that most of these properties will be annexed into the specific cities, either T or Sioux Falls, prior to development. So there won't be really any change to zoning. There won't be any impact as far as our land use considerations. And then again, the numbers will really be part of the growth part of it, as part of the revenue part of it. So again, we're projecting that the TIF would be paid, the $15 million loan would be paid back within approximately 7 years at this time. So with that, I know I rushed that pretty quick, but this is a little bit different TIF than we typically do, but it's a county TIF, and it will be utilized for the county's share of the 85th Street interchange at the interstate. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, this is a public hearing, Mr. Chair. You can certainly open up to the public for comment, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Sweeter?
Yeah, Toby, has there been, this is all, if those are already developed, are they redeveloping? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, potential for redevelopment, yes.
Potential for redevelopment. And so
Yes.
then the only part of that goes to the TIF is the difference from the base to what the redevelopment is.
Yep, so the hope is we'll get this sent to the state to establish the base probably in next month sometime.
Okay.
And then again, any improvements to these particular properties would be the increment or the revenue associated with it. Yep.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, I will ask anybody about just anyone, come up and, public input, yes, sir?
Not so much input, could I ask questions?
Yep, come on up, yes.
Mostly, I guess I'm trying to put together why it is.
Could we get your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Ken Elbers. I live near rural Canton, have for a long time. As a matter of fact, I was the first zoning enforcement officer that Lincoln County had.
Thank you very
100
much
years
for
ago.
your help, thank you.
And these meetings were really quite different than they are right now. In any event, I just have a couple questions. The base that you spoke of, am I correct in assuming that the school district, the municipalities, and the counties can't take any of the extra revenue that's increased above the base until the TIF is over? Is that right?
Yes.
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 Okay, so then the question comes, and I do understand, in 1996, the legislature passed a law that required an additional tax levy for the school district. Now, the school district is entitled to that above the base revenue. They can't get it from the normal sense, so then the state picks up that with an extra tax levy that everybody pays as opposed to, yes?
We're held harmless in the.
You're held harmless.
In the
But
formula.
the city, the county, they aren't held harmless. They
Excuse me,
can't.
guys, excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be talking to you, I'm sorry, I
It's okay.
apologize. Okay, so my question is, can the county start drawing additional revenue above the base prior to the time that the TIF is over? I think the answer is no, but that's not what I'm here for to tell you. I'm here to ask you, do you know?
I'm trying to ask,
Well,
so what's your question, Ken, is once the TIF is in place, okay, it's in place. So a building comes online, okay? So the tax from that building, which would normally be paid to somebody, be paid to the city, be paid to the school district, be paid to that. What we're saying is that from the municipal side and the school side and township side or whatever, would now go to the county to pay back the loan.
That's certainly not my understanding, but is that what you're saying is going to happen?
It goes to the TIF.
Yeah.
It goes to the TIF, it's the TIF increment. And that additional money, the base goes to where it's supposed to go. Anything over and above goes to the TIF until it's paid off.
Yeah, and the TIF is the county? The money's going to the county? I mean,
It's going to wherever the TIF money is required to go, to whoever holds that.
Can I, I know I said I was going to ask a question. Can I read something and then maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm not caught up? Can I read something to you real quick?
Yes, yep, go ahead.
All right. School districts, municipalities, and counties are affected by TIF district classification through property taxes and the state aid to education formula. The more these entities rely on property taxes, the more an impact a TIF district could have on the entity. Over the life of the TIF district, each of these entities would only receive its proportionate share of property taxes from the tax increment base, which means the entities will not see any increased property tax revenue from within the TIF district until the project costs have all been repaid. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And then there's a special thing. The school districts recover their lost revenue to the school general fund and special education fund through an additional tax levy, and that's what we're talking about. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do it again. The school districts will get that extra money that others aren't getting through a state aid to education, an additional levy, and the rest of the state will pay for that. So am I wrong? I guess my bottom line is, in the time it takes to fulfill and finish the TIF district, where will the county's revenue to pay the $15 million come from? And I guess that's my next question. Do you have to start paying it right away, or when do you pay it?
Well, Ken, as I tried to explain to you one morning, when this TIF district, when the actual beginning of the interchange starts, and let's say that starts in '25.
Yeah.
Whatever monies that Lincoln County does have already available within the DOT, because we're borrowing the money from them, we have not taken all of the money, so we do have some available. Well, then all the entities that are participating in this particular interchange, the state, the city of Sioux Falls, private landowners, and Lincoln County primarily are the four funders. Well, then you start levying or paying bills back, and which one of those entities is going to pay first? Is it going to be the city of Sioux Falls that's going to start paying first, and then the state, and then the landowners? And what we have asked for is that Lincoln County would be the last funder in line, so that we would be able to sequester some of these additional funds so that we have a chance for the development, because it may take a year or two to develop before you start getting the revenue from the TIF. Are you following me now?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not. And I just.
Kenny, I don't know how to answer your question.
Yeah, okay, I'm not following you, and I can only hope that the other members are following because I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. The bottom line for me is, when will the additional revenue from the TIF start coming to the county, the city, and whatever? When will that happen? Will it happen after the base? Oh, will you be, you cannot, I don't think you can go above the base until the TIF is done. Well, okay, then the bottom line for me is, what's the point of a TIF? If Lincoln County borrows $15 million and the interchange is built, a TIF to me is meant to bring in development. It's meant to enhance and enable the people who do the building and who come there. And I propose, and I know I was going to speak, but I think those people are going to build there, the TIF notwithstanding. I don't think that the people that own that land out there now are going to plant it to corn if you don't do a TIF.
Sure. So, thank you.
Kenny,
Thank you, Kenny.
I agree with you when you said it's designed to bring people in. And you put $15 million to work. The question is, this is a revenue way in which the county can repay $15 million without impacting our current budget at all. And as I tried to tell you, with your concern, this came from the government, our governor's Office of Economic Development. So consequently, they do not share your concerns, nor did the city of Sioux Falls, nor did the DOT. So I don't know how to answer any more than what we have. And I would say you have your issues, and you're right to that, but I do not share them. I think we vetted this thing for 10 years.
Yeah, we've talked about it, and did
Kenny-
you say
Kenny,
earlier that?
we're over our time too, so
All
I
right,
appreciate
okay.
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to stick around and make sure everybody knows what's going on here.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion or public input on this tax, TIF?
Tim Graff, 528 Harper Circle, Harrisburg, South Dakota. I'm with the school district. I'm not representing the school district, although our school board has discussed this. We have no opposition to the TIF. Just to answer a couple of things, and we do see TIFs as a valuable tool for economic development. We do see this as a huge benefit to that area, of which I believe all of the land is within the Harrisburg School District. Just to clarify a couple of the comments, the school district is held harmless in the school general fund formula. We're not necessarily held completely harmless in the other funds, but we have no opposition to this. See it as a wonderful way to get this, what we see as a badly needed interchange for that area down the road, as for the reasons that have already been stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, any other public input? Seeing none, I will close the floor, and I will take a motion to approve the recommendation of the resolution to the county.
So move, Boots.
Second instead.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call roll call. Commissioner Ensted?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Boots?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeter?
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings is also a yes.
Bet.
Thank you.
Kenny.
All right, with that, we are at work session, new business, Mr. Brown?
So we do have one item for new business that I put on there. This is for the comprehensive plan update. So staff did receive a rough draft of the comprehensive plan. We're going through that a little bit. But I did talk to the chair about this, Eric Scott, Chairman Scott, but is that I think that based on some discussions that we've had with the Board of Commissioners and yourselves, that maybe we could create a subcommittee of the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners to talk about primarily the future land use map. I know that tonight we had major discussions about the future land use map, and I know that we've had discussions with the cities about the future land use map. Above and all is that we want to make sure that we're all on the same page with what we desire to have the future land use to be. And I know that's kind of herding cats some days, when we're dealing with multiple municipalities and multiple jurisdictions. But I think what we're starting to see in the county is, we have rapid growth, everyone knows that. But we have a reliance on the comprehensive plan. We have a lot of individuals that are purchasing property in the county right now that they need to be guided on what that property can be used for in the future, because we have people buying property and having an idea in their mind how they want to proceed with that, but sometimes that might not agree with what the comprehensive plan is. And so we want to, again, this is important for the county to make sure that we have a vision for what we want to see the county to be, and that we can share that vision and we can utilize that vision for investments and for relationships that we have with other entities, whether it be the school districts and the other jurisdictions. So I guess I'll be brief on this one. We've had a long agenda tonight, but ask you if you're interested in serving in a subcommittee of the Planning Commission with Chairman Scott, is to just reach out to him if you have an interest in that, and we'll start scheduling some meetings to kind of really bring a subgroup of the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Commission together to kind of share with where we're at with, kind of where these stages are at. Again, what I would say, and you've heard me say this before, is that there's really no substantial changes to the current plan that we have right now. We're still guide development towards the cities, preserve the rural quality of life, kind of balance those issues. But we do, as everyone stated tonight, we do have an increasing pressure demand for conversion of agricultural property. Which is, as Commissioner Smith said, is a good and a bad problem to have at the same time. But we are attractive for development, so we need to make sure that we have a vision that we can work with landowners and future landowners with that. So I'll start rambling there, but I think that that's kind of the step we're going to go with this at this stage in time, is just reach out to Chairman Scott about that. So, and with that, I don't have any other items for that tonight. So I appreciate everyone's time tonight.
How many are you looking for on that subcommittee?
Probably no more than a quorum, so that we can just have kind of a working group part of it, yeah.
That makes sense.
So two or, probably two with that, so, yeah. And I don't know what Commissioner Scott's availability is on that either, so, but, yeah, we'll reach out to him. But I think it's a critical step, I think we need to have a dialogue, conversation with the two bodies, to kind of work with to kind of see what direction we want to go with that part of it, so. And I know that we have, we've had quite a bit of public input on this. We've had over 1,000, what I'll call people involved in public input, whether that be at the public meetings or whether that be through our survey process, our story map process. So I think we've had, and I know people say, well, we're 70,000 people population, but I'll remind everyone that the rural population that this plan governs is about 10, 11,000 people, which isn't nothing to shake a stick at, because if you look at it, we're the second largest municipality in the county then. Because the combined T and Harrisburg wouldn't meet what we have for rural population out in the county. So we do have a significant amount of rural population out there. And so it's important that, we've heard tonight, we heard every night, every month that we have it with items is that with development pressure, it's good that we're accepting of it and the public's accepting of it, but there is challenges with it, and we know that those are individual challenges that we have to work through some of those issues too, so. But, like I always tell staff is that, Lincoln County has never been better than it is today. It'll be even better tomorrow. So there's things that, that we're working through and going through with it, but, we see it every day is this is an attractive place to be. And we're going to have more tremendous growth than I think we've ever seen before. And so it's just compounds it, so. With that.
Toby, you mentioned that what's going to be difficult for you commissioners on this planning and zoning board You know, for today, for example, we covered from Spring Creek, what they're gonna do with that golf course, how that's going to be affected, and where that Spring Creek grows. South from there, I mean, the pressure is going to be on because they're probably putting a new spillway in, and that'll be all the way to Canton. You've got people that are looking at different developments from all over. The challenge is going to be, how do you maintain an agricultural base? Because it's just kind of like a growing, it's just like it never ends. I mean, it comes. The interstate highway is going to become the big deal because all of those issues off of those sides. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to be the planning and zoning director to try to have that, but that comp plan is going to be, that'll set the tone for Lincoln County for decades.
Yep.
And that's going to be our dividing time, because this is a time, if you don't take it and you really don't put the proper input in, it'll bite you back many, many times beyond that. So this is a critical juncture, so.
Well, I think it's important too, is just like we went through with 85th Street, and Commissioner Schmidt and I could have talked for 3 hours on just that, but it's important that this is our once-in-a-lifetime shot. I've said this before. It's not more, being morbid or anything like that. It's just that this is supposed to be a 20-year plan, and there's a purpose for that, is because we want to work towards something. And we want to have good vision. We want to have those things. And really, like I've said this before, is Lincoln County is dynamic. I mean, when you think about it, we do have a strong agricultural community. I mean, we have more dairy cows than we have people in this county, as far as that part of it, and the rural area part of it. But we have a huge demand, and, part of the pandemic is people wanting to move out into the rural area. I mean, we've had more growth and development in the rural area with housing and everything else associated with it. So it's, everything's hitting at the same time, and it's, it's becoming those issues. The big issue is, how do we manage this? And not manage it to control it, but manage it to exploit it, to make sure that it's good growth, that it's good development, and it's good tax base, and those different types of things. Because we do have opportunity. We do have, absent all the people thinking the drainage issues and stuff like that. Development, good development, and I think you're going to say that when you look back at the last 5-6 years, we've had good development. We've made sure that we've engineered development so that it benefits drainage and it doesn't harm drainage or add to drainage. But with that, it comes good regulations, and it comes to sticking to those regulations and making sure that we that we make sure that development is good development with it. And so that does take time, and that does take energy. And so it's like I've always said, is that, when you think about it, that, when Kenny was thinking back here, and when we go back, is, Chairman Scott, he's not here tonight, but I was gonna point this out to him, is that he stopped in our office last week, and he said that when he went to high school, that we had two deputies, which would have meant we had one sheriff and one deputy in the county. And you think about it. It's not saying that Eric's that old, but I mean, it's really just saying that's how much it's changed, right? And I mean, it's happened fast. It's when Sioux Falls came over that ridge in the 2000s, that changed everything. That created this, and you're going to say, well, it's just Sioux Falls growth. No, that created the pressure. The pressure for additional outlying development and those different types of things. But, when you think about it, though, is that, I've told this to Commissioner Schmidt, and I know Marlene knows this, but when you think about when we had that growth, the employment base of Lincoln County from now until back then wasn't that great, percentage-wise. It's not even measurable. We're an operation of, I think, about 150 employees, give or take a few there. And you think about that, we're a 24-hour operation. This doesn't just third Monday of the month and the second Wednesday of the month, or the first, second, fourth. This is a 24-hour operation of people, that work really hard to make sure that the services are provided. But with that growth, with that development, comes increased pressure for services. Our staff can attest to that. I mean, it wasn't, when I first started, that many years ago, I mean, we had the same builders. We knew everybody by first, middle name, and last name. Now it's the development pressure we have is greater than that. I mean, it's multiplied since then. And so it's complex, you know? Back in the day, like I've said this before, is that the typical house that we permitted was 1,400 square feet, 1,600, 1,700 square feet. Now they're double, triple, 3 times that. You know, back then, we could review a building permit in a day on, you know, because it was just slab on grade with a basement on it. Now we got multiple levels, and we've got all kinds of different things that going into every building that we're building in the county, so it's much more complex. And same thing with the commercial and industrial. You know, back then, it was all cold storage, and now it's multiple types of uses within these buildings, contractor shops, and whether it be storage units or those different types of things. So it's more complex, but with that, it becomes more challenging, and it becomes more opportunity for the county, and so it's, you know, there's a benefit to it. But we need to make sure that we recognize, you know, what does all this mean? You know, because I would say back in 2000, when Sioux Falls came over the ridge, I don't think there was enough time to really say, well, what's this all gonna, you know, not just today what's happening, but what's 5, 10, 15, 20 years gonna look like now? And that's what's important with this comprehensive plan, that we need to look, what are these decisions we're making today? How is that gonna impact us, you know, into the future? Because I've always said, you know, planning isn't about today, planning is about the future. And it's about the recognizing that the decisions we're making tonight are going to have significant impacts on the county down the road, good and bad. But it's important that we take time to make sure we're addressing all of those issues that we can, you know, that's what good planning is, in my opinion. So, but with that, I know it's been a long evening, so thank you for everyone. Any questions?
None for me. I just, again, appreciate everything you and staff are putting together into this. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we got a great team, and I consider you guys planners too, you know, so I mean, it's all part of that process, so, okay. Thank you.
Toby.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work.
With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Sweeter.
Second, and said.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Good job.
We're done.